guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to review a ORIENT star diver, the RE-AU0307E. Quite the catchy name that ORIENT star tends to use. So this is it's a dive watch. If you couldn't tell, it is a 200-meter resistant watch. And ORIENT star in general, for those who aren't familiar, it's kind of ORIENT's kind of premium line. Although the gap between ORIENT star is nowhere near what you see with a Grand Seiko and Seiko. But this is a Seiko built watch, so it's a sister company of Seiko. So this one actually I think is kind of like the cousin to the Marine Master 200. You know, they both kind of have very similar specs, kind of sit in the same kind of line of their food chain. So I would kind of consider these two kind of cousins. So overall, this is a really cool watch. It is kind of a beefy watch, so it is 43.5 millimeters, and it wears like it. So it's not one that I'm gonna say wears smaller. I think this feels kind of like its dimensions. So 43 millimeters. I'll put the lug to lug and the band here up in the screen. I don't want to butcher it, but kind of on the heavier side and kind of bulky size, but it's got decent specs. So it is a 200 millimeter resistant. It's using one of their newer movements, the F6N47 movement. It's got a 50-hour power reserve, anti-reflective coating on the underside, hacking, hand winding, and if you couldn't tell, it's got this cool power reserve. So as you wind it, so take it out, you can see. Let's give it a little sample here. So you can kind of see your gas tank is filling up. So pretty cool complication, I think, especially at this price point, to see that kind of added feature that I think is pretty nice. All right, so there you go. Give it 25 hours, and that's kind of what these numbers indicate. So 50 hours. So right now you have about 25 hours of reserve. The lume on this watch is fantastic. Let me see if I can show it. It is a little light here, so pretty good lume. I'll probably see if I can do one in complete darkness and add it, because I think it's kind of tough to do right here. But it does have really good lume. So here you can see the lume example. You have the SKX on the left, the Orient in the middle, and the Pelagos on the right side. Now, the one thing about this watch that kind of caught me off guard is the bezel action. It's very, very light. You know, among one of the lightest feel watches I've probably played with. I mean, this is like no effort at all. And it sounds pretty kind of cheap, kind of hollow feeling. I don't know if you can hear it. So it does not feel like a premium bezel action at all. I mean, like this one right here, I mean, this is just, this one is just quality. I mean, it's just very smooth and solid clicks. But then again, obviously different price points. But if you look at this Seiko, this one has a very hard, kind of quiet feel. I mean, this one you have to like really kind of work hard to turn. And it's very kind of muffled. You don't feel the vibration, not as loud. Where this one, look at this. I mean, I could just do with one. I could just thumb this one and move it. That's how easy it is. So I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if I got a bad one, or I don't know if you're familiar with this watch. Please let me know in the comments, kind of if this is kind of how it's supposed to be. But look at this. I can just spin this with one hand, where this one is, I mean, barely I can turn it. So I don't know. Not sure if that's normal or not, but that's kind of what it is. So bracelet on this one is kind of your typical Seiko type of bracelet. You know, you got a stamped clasp, you know, ORIENT star here. You got push pins for the bracelet. It's a very Seiko-esque bracelet. This one actually I feel is nicer. Like these Shield ones are on these kind of their mid-tier watches is much lighter. This bracelet is kind of very reminiscent of the turtle bracelet, I would say, kind of in that category. Maybe a little bit better than like a Seiko turtle, but not. I don't know if it's as good as like. I mean, maybe comparable to one of these. But either way, you know, it is a Seiko type of bracelet. Nothing to write a home about. We do have solid end links. The case back is actually not bad. It's, you know, stamped. The color though I think is really nice. It's a very deep kind of green, so it's not the kind of green that I was actually hoping for. I'd say it's not good. It's just I was kind of really hoping for like a Seiko Marine Master green, where it's almost like a forest green. This is kind of closer to like an emerald green, but it still looks very nice, I think, especially in the sun. And the yellow accents just make it look very unique. Accuracy wise, I think the watch has been running really well. Poster here right on the side, but no complaints really about this watch. You know, I can't imagine finding a better deal. I mean, this watch, if you can find it, goes for about $500. You know, compared to this one, which goes closer to the 1,000. So this is half the price of this one. Now, is this one twice? I mean, is this one better? Yeah, I'd say this one's better, but is it twice better? No. So this is where I think Orient Star is starting to kind of, I think, kind of shine. Is that if you haven't already, give them a consideration, because you do get a lot here. I mean, signed, crowned, small little detail, but you don't get that on, you know, on Seikos. You know, the workings of the watch actually are pretty nice. So it's got some horizontal brushing right here. Looks very nice, and not a whole lot of high polish, which I kind of like, because then you can wear the watch. It's gonna kind of wear, you know, age better. It's not gonna show scratches. Like this watch is like a mirror. I mean, this is just super shiny, high polish, reflective, which looks nice, but it can also catch scratches pretty darn easily. Now, I think Seiko's Shield coating that they put on there works really well, because you can see about this watch, you know, it still looks pretty darn good. So kudos to their coating. Where a brushed watch like this is going to hide some blemishes much better. So, which I think for me is a positive, because this is a watch I'm going to kind of put a lot more wear into. So I think we'll see how it holds up and hides any kind of you know, dents or anything like that. But it's more of a kind of a tool design watch. I mean, it looks like it's very toolish. It's definitely not something I would ever wear to like a formal event. I mean, this is more of like a watch built for a specific purpose, where, you know, this one, to be honest, I mean, you could wear this like at a formal event. I mean, this looks like a nice kind of got a little dress-esque to it, that you could wear this as kind of a dress watch and probably be okay. Where this one I think is a little bit more purpose-built. You know, it kind of reminds me of like this Pelagos. Now, this Pelagos also, I think, you know, being a titanium is not really be kind of hard to pull off as a dress watch. It's a kind of a watch that's built to do a job. That's where I think this one falls into. So it is a low beat movement. So if you can tell, you know, it doesn't have the smoothest action. This is a 21,000 vibrations beats, so it's gonna be a little jumpy. Or if you were to look at something like, let me give this a few shakes. So when you look at like one of these, you can kind of see the difference in the movement. See how this one's kind of much more kind of smoothed out, not as kind of jittery. And then you get this one, and you can kind of see the jitter. Now there's some benefits, I think, to a low beat movement. You know, a lot of Seikos, a lot of Japanese divers in the low end tend to be low beat movements. The advantage of that is really, one, you get a longer power reserve because less beats, less power uses. And I think you also get longer longevity. The lower beats, work, the higher the beat, the harder the watch works. So you're going to get more life out of a low beat watch, which is why some of these, like these SKXs, some of these kind of cheaper Seikos, you see these 20-year-old watches on eBay selling that are still ticking away. I think a lot of that has to do with the low beat movement. But here's kind of, while I have it, here, let's take a look at the size comparison to an SKX. So as you can see, so it is a little bit larger, but yeah, it's definitely wearable. I have a 7-inch wrist. Oops, sorry about that. I have a 7-inch wrist, and this wears pretty comfortably. It definitely has wrist presence. I mean, you feel this in your wrist. It's not a watch that, like, the whole wear small. I mean, this does not wear small. It wears like a 43mm watch. So there's no like no escaping that one. Where this one, I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, this has got big dimensions, but this watch does not wear. I mean, technically these two watches have the same dimensions, but this one definitely wears smaller. So that's one reason I love these Marine Master 200s. They're just very comfortable. All right, well, I don't have much else to tell you. Overall, I think it's a great watch. I would recommend it. I do plan on keeping it and putting some wear on it, and maybe in a year or so I'll do a review kind of a year later how it's held up, and we'll take it from there. So one last look at the Orient Star Diver. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and